Jeremy, Massachusetts, September 1985, is the only Twitch streamer I care about. When most people think about Twitch, it's a website where you can watch other people play games. There's nothing wrong with that, by the way. But every once in a while, someone, Jerma, will create a stream that is so beyond what everyone else is doing on this website that it's puzzling how it even managed to exist. In this video, I'm going to talk about Jerma. If you're a Jerma fan, maybe this will give you a new appreciation for him. If you're not, I don't know why you're here, but I'll give context for what I'm talking about, and you can learn more about why this guy is my biggest artistic inspiration right now, both in fan art and all of my other projects. Jerma has created so many creative and interesting projects that are influencing the landscape of streaming, and more importantly, influencing me. His entire shameless approach to just making entertaining stuff has a community of people inspired to do the same, and eventually he'll be credited as an innovator of. If I'm talking about Jerma985 as an innovator, I have to start with the Dollhouse streams. The Jerma985 Dollhouse was a 3-day event stream from August 18th to the 21st, 2021, with Jerma as a doll to be played with by his audience. Viewers could dress him up, decorate his house, and control his actions through a stream extension, all while managing his physical needs, like taking care of his hygiene, hunger, and energy levels, which needed to be replenished regularly. The audience got to direct and influence the story by deciding interactions with characters like flirting with the sexy maid who wears a knee-length dress with long sleeves. Listen, I did not want to see Ludwig from video games in an actually sexy maid costume, but come on. It was like a real-life game of Sims, basically. I could argue that it is the only live-action adaptation of a video game that truly understood the source material, but was also something new and, dare I say, innovative. These streams embodied the original game's appeal with references to classic situations from the game. Removing the ladder from the pool, getting attacked by a bear, and woohooing the Grim Reaper. Even though there were a lot of obvious inspirations and influences from The Sims, this stream was something completely new.
I woohooed! Woohooed! It's not the same! It's not the same thing, chat! Woohoo is a different term! Although I just really screwed up and said something else. Woohoo's different! It's different. We woohooed! We both said woohoo, we had a great time. We were upstairs, we rolled around, we went, whoa, woohoo! And that's it, that's all that happened.
It was a wonderful commentary about streamers and the potential horrors of parasocial relationships, with themes of entertainment, choices, and agency. This has all been talked about already, and there are plenty of better video essays you could watch. I think I have to recommend this video about how the Dollhouse is a theatrical masterpiece, with its actors on stage, lighting, sound technicians, and an entire cast and production crew, because the top comment is what inspired my thesis here. Instead, I want to talk about where the Dollhouse idea came from. About 2 years earlier, Jerma was streaming a game called Farmer's Dynasty, a farming simulator about renovating and rebuilding a farm. Jerma starts talking about how he would like to play a game like this one, or a game like House Flipper, with other people, and a sequence of serendipitous chat messages eventually leads to Jerma Dollhouse.
I would love to play House Flipper and just have like 2 or 3 people decorate a house together. Twitch builds a house. All I would need to do is just put up like a wood and then just have like some drywall and have like 3 small rooms made that can have like couches and furniture and stuff in them. Dollhouse. The Jerma Dollhouse.
It's crazy to me that an idea for such an influential piece of performance art, that's what it is, happened so quickly and easily, and so immediately captured the essence of what the streams would end up being.
Imagine if I made a fucking Dollhouse cut in half sort of like set and you guys just played The Sims, but it was just me in a house. You'll have bars underneath. I'll have to go get a job. I would make money, and you could purchase stuff. Oh man, I'll just have a bunch of like random fucking furniture that you guys can buy and just moved into the house. And if I leave the house or lie down to go to bed, we just do like a fake, it's going times 10 speed. So we'll just go to the next day. How are you gonna deal with the fires? The set is burning down and I'm just jumping up and down going, "Ah, Sul Sul!" I'm getting like burnt.
How often can you pinpoint the very beginning of an idea for a project of this scale? The viewers had no idea whether this idea would go anywhere, and even if they did, there is no way they could have even begun to predict the level of execution.
God damn, do I have to actually write this one down?
If you're anything like me, you'll appreciate some production knowledge. The set design is so impressive, and there were a lot of logistics involved in its engineering and construction. Specifically, there's forced perspective in how the walls were built for the dollhouse to look how it does from straight on in the wide shots. I thought that perspective was just an annoying drawing fundamental, but I guess it applies to real life too, huh? Every single choice that viewers could pick was available, which meant at least 130 big pieces of furniture had to be acquired and stored underneath the set, and then however many props and clothes and other choices. So much work and planning went into this stream, and it's only really obvious in a behind-the-scenes video. Having an idea is really easy. Anyone, including a random person in a chat room, can have a good idea, but just an idea by itself is worthless. The value is in everything that Jerma did to get from a series of chat messages to this massive artistic theater production with more than 100,000 concurrent viewers on the third day. Unfortunately, I was not one of those people. I cannot emphasize enough just how insane the Dollhouse stream was and how it completely transcended the platform it was on. I think the Dollhouse is still the best thing in the category of things that it is. I have to show my favorite moment. This was an improvised moment, well, even more improvised than the rest of the show, but it's so stupid and it goes on way too long.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday.
But I love that it makes Jerma break character, and I think it's underappreciated. If Jerma is an innovator of a new category of things that is yet to happen, there's a question that could be asked since it's been a few years since the Dollhouse stream. Has the next thing been invented yet? If we could get a status update, I just wanted to circle back to this item and see if anyone has had the bandwidth to tackle it. Has there been a project inspired by the innovations of the Dollhouse to do something new? I think the answer to that question is yes. Kind of. A while back, there was an interactive, retro analog horror comedy mini-series known as Gen Loss, or Generation Loss, The Social Experiments for long. Gen Loss was like if the Dollhouse streams and every Saw movie had a baby. Created by Rambo, it was a 3-part live stream in which viewers made choices to control the hero of the story as they explored their environment and eventually navigated a series of jigsaw-esque puzzles and situations set up by the mastermind, also known as the Puzzler, played by Jerma. Jerma was also a creative consultant for this project and a co-writer for the second episode. The series starts with episode 1, as do most numbered sequential narratives. The Spirit of the Cabin, presented by the fictional company shufflemania, takes place in a series of rooms, not unlike the Dollhouse set. And because of this similar set, I had some assumptions about this project, but episode 2 went in a completely different direction. A new location, and this is when the torture puzzles really get going, with the slimiest game of Operation, the Carousel of Doom, Mousetrap, Dodge Lasers, and the actual inspiration behind the Roblox Dress to Impress game. They solve the puzzle, and our hero realizes they've been a puppet in the show we're watching, breaking the fourth wall of this production in the process. All this happens with the most insane reveal as the camera pans outwards and backwards to show the giant abandoned mall where this show is taking place. By the way, experiencing this in real time was life-changing. There was no way to know anything like this was going to happen. My bad for assuming this would be a poor copy of the Dollhouse. How was I to know this would be a cool and original project? But I did appreciate that it felt honest and proud of its influences and inspirations. What I appreciate even more is that these weren't just copies from other games and movies. The references were familiar, but divergences were unsettling and completely subverted expectations. If the Dollhouse stream was an innovative digital theater experience with performers on a stage, then Jerma985 pushed that relationship of where does the stage even end? Both of these projects explore the relationship between content creators and their audiences of persistent and strongly opinionated spectators, as well as the pressure and responsibility of entertainment and the balance between authenticity and performance. There was no way to know where this story was going because it wasn't just confined to a predictable set of choices about outfits, furniture, or bodily functions. Jerma985 was a much bigger story in production. It was bigger. Jerma985 expanded on the innovations of the Dollhouse stream in a few different ways. The most obvious expansion was the set design, which was even more impressive. These rooms weren't just a backdrop or a room to add furniture to. It was a space to be explored and interacted with. And with 37 different sets, the relationship between the hero and the stage is clearly an important theme of this story. My favorite parts were the props and the practical effects. I feel like they added so much character to the space, especially as we were being introduced to the story. Pre-recorded bits, like the confessionals during the cooking segment.
Uh-oh, looks like our contestant is running out of slime. I mean slime, 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 I mean slime.
And the stunt in the laser room were a new aspect of this project that made this theater performance feel like it was fully utilizing the digital medium. These were so unexpected and funny. Vinny's, I don't even know how to describe this, but this was just the perfect visual gag. And I'm still obsessed with the soundtrack, which was one of my top listened to artists of the year. In many ways, Jerma985 feels like a step forward in the evolution of digital interactive theater performances, but there's a reason why I don't think it's the next thing and that we're still waiting for the something that is still yet to come. This project's biggest weakness is that it's filled with a troupe of streamers who are all clearly and persistently trying to be the funniest person in the room. They can't help it, but it's a losing game when Jerma is one of the people in the room.
Sorry, I'm a little slow. I had a large pasta, a shrimp. I'm a little bloated. But hey, when I had dessert, though, let me tell you, it was a bad day to be a cheesecake. I'll tell you that much.
The puzzler seemed like a real character. The Giga Chad cosplay probably helped with that. This guy played 3 separate characters with 3 different and interesting performances, and Nikki is crying. But with the introduction of all of the streamers, I guess I assumed these were supposed to be characters. The color blocking of the outfits is a very satisfying character design choice. I've seen some analysis about the streamer personas being a part of the Showfall media filter over the experiments, and how the contestants are shown with only the qualities to which their viewers have reduced them. But doing the same thing that you always do as a streamer, but suddenly this time with irony or satire, doesn't suddenly make it entertaining or insightful. Austin, I think, stands out as the worst, probably. If you don't know who Austin is, he is gay.
Wait till my wife hears about this. My wife is beautiful.
No, we're different. You and I have a wife. I have children and wives. Wife. One wife.
I got kids. I have a wife. And we should solve this?
Listen, I don't have a problem with that. I have plenty of friends who are gay. I don't watch his content because I've heard his one joke, in various clips on my For You page. So why am I watching this interesting project with commentary about performance and content creator autonomy, only to feel like it's missing his giant rainbow captions?
Oh man, what the hell?
Although, you know what they say. Fear not the man who has made 10,000 jokes once, but fear the man who has practiced one gay joke 10,000 times. The improv performances from these streamers left this project feeling meandering. So much thought and planning went into this project that I don't think was reflected in the acting choices. So many interesting backstories and explanations about these characters and this world. Every new room felt like progress through the story, with the set design and possible clues about the lore. But we wouldn't need lore if the story was in the thing we all just watched. Something that came up in my research for this video was foreshadowing. I wish I could have noticed these things when I was watching, but it's hard to know what is relevant to the story when the streamers are all pacing around, gnawing at the bars of their enclosure, you know? In the toy room, the first board game Ranboo picks up is the Mall of America, M-A-U-L, Mall, foreshadowing the reveal at the end of the episode. This is an amazing detail. There are also a couple of moments where Ranboo predicts deaths of the characters with objects that match our color-coded streamers. They predict Ethan's death with the lilac nail polish, and Austin's death with the orange toy part. If only there were orange objects in any of the sets from earlier in the show. So I guess I don't understand why, after all of the planning and thought put into this project, what is essentially the writing of the story was left to be done at the last minute by a group of people who, in my opinion, weren't necessarily qualified to do that. Of course, putting your fellow content creators in your projects makes for good marketing, but I think it was short-sighted. This was a bit of a tangent, but the point I'm trying to make is that Genloss was inspired by Jerma's event streams and directly influenced by him as a creative consultant behind the scenes and an actor in front of the scenes. Despite using the innovations of the Dollhouse stream to continue the evolution of digital theater, there's a specific reason it's not the next big thing in immersive performance art and storytelling. This isn't a criticism only for Genloss. Most stream events exist for streamers to hang out with their friends, not to revolutionize digital theatrical performance and storytelling. Why would they hire actors or performers for a Twitch stream? No one does that. Wrong. Jerma does that. We need to talk about the baseball stream. The baseball stream, presented by the Jerma Baseball Association, was a baseball game between the California Circus and the Maryland Magicians. This stream was a wonderful expression of America's pastime, a cultural tradition of which I could definitely explain the rules if I wanted to. With one wacky addition, team managers could play power cards to influence a pitch or an entire half inning. For example, the triple vision card called for 3 pitchers at once.
Nearly wore 3 of them.
Ball 1, ball 2.
I guess another difference might be that there were a lot of shenanigans from the players, with unsportsmanlike behavior from the clowns. A few of them got ejected from the game, and the umpire, played by Jerma, had to jump in for the game to continue. He somehow made it to base and only had to make a few questionable calls to stay there.
He's been tagged out twice by 2 separate balls, and
Calls
he's
himself
safe.
safe.
A couple of highlights from this stream that I have to mention include Streaker, an enemies to lovers arc between the team mascots.
Now they're making out.
And whatever this is. There were a lot of good bits in this stream. This was such a silly and nonsensical project to watch. This stream could not have been done by anyone else for many reasons, but especially because of this choice to incorporate performers with a professional capability to be committed to the bit. This stream took place in a real baseball field. Professional baseball players from local colleges or independent leagues did most of the playing, and real magicians and real clowns were mixed in with the teams for the stunts. A bunch of clowns and magicians goofing around on a baseball field is funny, but it's so much funnier that they're actually playing a decent game of baseball, at least as far as I can tell. There is some impressive baseballing in this game. I'm glad this clip specified that this was a one-hand catch. Thank you. The announcers, Storm Williamson and Gary Grunt, were played by actual real announcers. They were qualified to talk about the game as it was happening, and their straight-faced commentary just made all of the absurdity even funnier. They had some amazing lines.
You know, Storm, my friend worked in a circus one time. He was a human cannonball when he retired. They didn't replace him. They couldn't find anyone else of the same caliber as him.
I feel like this is the kind of punny anecdote that sports commentators are supposed to be saying, and they were perfect for their roles. And finally, Jerma even grew a real mustache for his role as Umpire Albertson, as the announcers called him. Typically, when streamers do their big projects, they're usually the host or the main character. I mean, it is their project. So it was such an interesting choice for Jerma to be the umpire, doing what he does amongst all these professional baseball players and clowns doing the thing that they're good at. This allowed for the commentary from the announcers. Experiencing Jerma and his humor through their perspective reinforced the absurdity of everything, with their reactions to the inside jokes,
Pre-ball fondler.
and the fact that the announcers weren't familiar with Jerma or his audience made it all the more entertaining.
You know, when the shirts come off, you gotta give the female audience something to really write home about.
When it comes to big creative streams, Jerma is in a league of his own.
Enjoy Handsome wants to protest this call, but he can't even find Albertson with the bag on his
Yeah,
head.
he didn't even see it. He's just being told what happened.
I don't want to put Jerma on a pedestal as the most creative streamer on Twitch, because I also stream on Twitch. No, as creative and entertaining as these projects have been, I wanted to take a section of this video for a critique. Being able to articulate the specific reasons something is good versus the areas of a project that fall short comparatively, I think is a good way to engage with media. Critical thinking, media literacy, those are buzzwords. Also, I gotta prove that I'm an objective and unbiased video essayist. So, one of the most recent event streams Jerma was involved in was Doug's Shufflemania stream. Jerma is credited as the creative director and chief creative officer of Off-Brand, whatever that means. Shufflemania was a gaming tournament with an AI robot shuffling games for 4 teams of streamers to play and compete in. Doug tends to make a lot of AI-related projects. I assumed these videos were about artificial intelligence, but I've never watched them, so maybe they're about Adobe Illustrator. I don't know if I have to say this, but AI bad. Anything the environmentally toxic plagiarism machine spits out is not worth watching because no one thought it was worth making. But I did tune in to Shufflemania because I knew that Jerma was involved, and I am not immune to my favorite streamer being a part of a project, but I feel like my friend convinced me to come to a party and then they left me alone with all these people I don't know. I dipped and missed the big reveal that Jerma was the shuffler robot and presumably was in the console the entire time. Shufflemania was just about picking his opposing team for Tennis Mania. I do appreciate that this stream had a premise. The tennis court apparently cost $7,000 and could have easily not happened or not been considered worth the cost. But I think that's the problem. The creative parts of this stream were extraneous to what the stream was. There is no way I could have sat through 5 hours of game tournament, of which I couldn't even figure out who was playing who. Am I stupid? All to watch these geeks play a different game at the end. Yes, there may have been bits when the host or the participants prompted a funny response from the shuffler, but most of the viewers who just tuned in to watch their favorite streamer play games against other streamers they may or may not also watch would have watched the stream regardless. And the stream wasn't for me. In summary, I was disappointed that Doug would be so cruel as to trap Jerma in a box, make him try to be funny on command, and expect his project to be more than just streamers playing games. Okay, let's get back to talking about how talented and creative Jerma is. My favorite thing about Jerma is his style of comedy, which comes through in all of his streams, but I think it's most apparent in his green screen community streams. Jerma did not invent this type of community thing. Many other YouTubers have done it. They film themselves, give the best footage to their viewers to fill in, and then they've got some great green screen memes. I love this video genre, but Jerma has somehow taken it a step above and beyond. As a streamer, he does green screen footage live, going through requests from his Discord community and workshopping them in real time.
Any requests?
Rather than a meme template with some intrinsic humor in the raw material, this project is a collaborative process, and the real humor comes through in the edits. It's one thing to have some good one-liners that could be funny in any edit, but it's another thing to do what he does and be willing and comfortable with setting up the joke for someone else to make. Artistic choices like filming with his entire body make a huge difference in the editing potential. It's great for putting him in various situations and scenarios. Also, he's so animated with his movement that it's so entertaining to watch him in scenes. Why does he move like a cartoon character? And why does he know how to breakdance? Should I learn how to breakdance? I love that he incorporates props and costumes. The Minecraft pickaxe and the raptor costumes are favorites of mine. It makes him feel cohesive with the background, and it elevates the quality of these edits. And the way that he performs different parts for different camera angles, I think is extremely underrated. All of these different choices come together to help create flexible material with infinite editing potential. Of course, this footage doesn't edit itself. You need a community that is just as funny and creative as he is to turn the hours and hours of his nonsense into funny bits, either by completing his references or by doing the opposite of what he wanted.
Nobody used this for anything else besides what we're doing this for. There's no way anyone's going to use this for anything else besides riding a fucking roller coaster.
Or making something completely unexpected. I think there's a specific reason he has been able to develop a community like this, why he inspires creativity, as represented by this meme, completely unironically. I don't know about Jeremy the person, but Jerma985 is genuinely comfortable with himself and his ideas and interests. Not that he's never been embarrassed on stream. You can tell when he's embarrassed because he'll cover his face, and if he's really embarrassed, the face cam disappears. But as long as it's funny or entertaining, it doesn't seem to matter. So this is not just a meme to me, It represents a change I've been experiencing since I started watching Jerma a couple years ago. This was a turning point in my art and the real beginning of my process of trying to unpack the shame I picked up when I was younger. Growing up, I was always the weird kid, and now that I'm an adult, I'm somehow still the weird kid because of this. I was always made fun of, and it was clear to all of my classmates that something was wrong with me. Not that they have the language to communicate it, but little girls are far more capable of diagnosing autism than any doctor I've ever seen. It's honestly impressive. I eventually figured out that masking my autistic traits meant that I was more palatable to the people around me, so shame and neurodivergence seem to have always gone hand in hand. Watching Jerma has legitimately altered my brain chemistry for the better. Anyone familiar with my recent art has seen the fan art, and there's been plenty of it, but it's not just that. He's had a huge influence on the way that I've been doing everything. I want to talk about a project I finished recently. I designed a new collection for my shop with Minecraft related merch. I mean, Minecraft didn't invent mushrooms or bees or the rest of these things, but this project was absolutely inspired by the different biomes in that game. Fan art is what inspired me to start drawing in the first place, and it's such a significant part of how I enjoy the things that I enjoy. And yet, the entire time I've been pursuing art as a career or business, I've felt embarrassed about my lack of original work. I could have let that feeling stop me from working on this idea I was excited about. In fact, I had plenty of excuses not to go through with this project. I had an interesting initial idea, but product design is so much more complicated than making art prints or stickers. Getting from the first concept to the final artwork took about a gazillion iterations. Despite looking simple and effortless, these icon designs are a lot more challenging than my usual art style. Trying to figure out how to make a pattern that would repeat perfectly around the shape of a sock probably took years off my life. And finding and working with manufacturers was an entirely different kind of challenge. This shop update was so many of my interests coming together: vector illustration, surface design, manufacturing, packaging design, and product photography at a much bigger scale than anything I've ever done for my business. If you like what you see, please check out my shop. Otherwise, I hope you can appreciate a project that wouldn't have existed without my progress in unlearning shame, especially about making Minecraft fan art. The pre-Jerma version of myself could have never gone through with a project like this. I'm very grateful for Jerma and his projects, which completely stand out from everything else that exists right now. He's changing what it means to be a Twitch streamer in a time where its main association is that being a content creator is an easy way to make money online. Influencers can do what they do because their audiences want what they have, and being able to make stuff for a big, excited audience is an easy dream to sell. But this industry is a numbers game, encouraging people to pump out content rather than making art. What incentive is there to spend years and potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars on a project to create something worthwhile? Being creative is bad for business. I mean this as a compliment, but you have to be insane to be doing what he's doing. I guess it's not surprising that Jerma has billions of dollars worth of debt. This is going to be a slight tangent, but I want to talk about this Drew Gooden video about Ninja's masterclass about becoming a streamer. For some reason, views and money, every streamer ever felt like they needed to make a reaction. Every streamer except for Jerma, obviously. Whether or not these reactions are technically fair use, I'd argue that they're not transformative, but that's just my opinion and beside the point. There is something inherently frustrating about them. To be honest, Drew's video was a big inspiration for my pyramid scheme video. Drew is really funny, thoughtful, and well-spoken, and it was reassuring to see someone like him go through this experience of streaming to 0 to 1 people, despite following all of the supposed advice. This is one of my favorite video essays to rewatch, and I wanted to share my perspective of content creator advice, so I did what any normal person would do, and I made my own thing. It's easy to be annoyed about reaction videos, but I've been trying to think about why these people do what they do. When I imagine myself in their situation, I can empathize with the feeling of seeing the people around me making cool things, receiving credit, praise, or money from that, and wanting that for myself. And I think by reacting to these videos, there's a part of their brain that feels like they've contributed to the bigger dialogue somehow, even though they have nothing to say or add. Maybe it's because of the emote transference that happens as the streamers see their chat with all of the emotes reacting to the video, and they think it's for them. I do feel bad for these people. Well, not that bad, because they're making buttloads of money as professional leeches, but because they have no aspirations for their work beyond making the numbers bigger, so they rely on other creators' work to make their reaction slop. They've never made anything, so this is good enough for them. That's a bummer. In conclusion, Jerma's livestream projects have completely innovated digital theater performances and have laid the groundwork for even cooler and more interesting projects in the future. However, no one's been able to take it to the next step yet, because the streamers who manage to take a break from making their reaction content to make big event streams think that that's all that it is, and they don't understand the appeal of these projects. Most event streams on Twitch are just game shows. These are impressive productions, but not conceptually driven or trying to do anything new or different. I know that nothing is original, and we're all inspired by our favorite things, but making the streamer version of a game show that already exists is a bit derivative.
Yes, and you have to stop calling these tasks legally.
With Jerma in his retirement arc, I do appreciate when these projects include him, because I will take whatever Jerma clips I can get, but this is far from a Jerma project. Ludwig has talked about how he copies ideas from other creators, but it's okay because he changes them a little bit in a process called the yoink and twist. Yoink and twist, which is the yoink and twisted version of the phrase steal like an artist, doesn't work because yoinking is easy, but it takes a lot more than a small twist to make something new. Jerma has been inspired by the game show format with his talent show called Who Will Replace Me? But the twist was that it was about finding a replacement for Jerma after he retired, with all the meta commentary about what it would mean to continue the Jerma985 brand in an era of content creators becoming teams of people with employees and successors. It was a celebration of his community with referential humor and inside jokes. These actors gave incredible performances. And this entire project was so much more than getting a few streamers together to just guess the prices of things for an hour with Austin, which somehow won Streamer Awards Best Streamed Series over Genloss. Very cool. The real appeal of a Jerma project is not the big event stream part, even though that's what this video was focused on, to support my argument about how unconventional, unique, and innovative his projects have been. By the way, I didn't even show all of them. I'll talk for a bit so I can keep showing B-roll. Look at all these things he has done in so many different places, wearing various outfits, talking to and interacting with various people. How do you even copy the creativity of a person who randomly and without announcement streamed a family dinner? This is an art piece that is amazing and absolutely unwatchable. But it's not about the big event streams. It's about his shameless approach to just trying to make something entertaining and interesting. Even his streams where he's just playing a game are rarely just that. He takes every opportunity to do bits, take suggestions, and whatever. It's not about doing one big, creative, life-changing thing. It's about being willing to put in the work and just doing the thing that you want to do. Because of the entire way that Jerma approaches the things that he does, people like me, also me, will continue to be inspired and create our own projects that are unique, passionate, and special. We'll have tiny but widespread innovations scattered across each of our fields and interests. Eventually, someone like me, but not me, will invent the next step in streaming and digital theater performances, and Jerma will have had his role in that.